Welcome back to the Band Guide, where we use GarageBand to create professional sounding music. I'm your band guy, Colin, and today I want to talk to you about the most important step in the mixing process. This step is kind of like setting the foundation for your mix. Everything is going to build off this step, so it's really important that you get it right. Imagine if you're building a house and you built a really loose, crumbly foundation. You don't want to build a house on top of that because eventually it's going to fall apart, and all the work that you put in, all the time you put in, is going to be for nothing. This step is kind of like setting that foundation for your house. It is really, really crucial. And the great thing is, it's actually the easiest step in the entire mixing process. This is the static mix, and all we're focusing on in the static mix is setting the best volume and panning positions for our tracks, for all the individual tracks. So we have all our little faders over here and all of our little pan knobs over here. This step is crucial, and it's crucial for a lot of reasons. One, we want to be keeping headroom at the top of our mix so that we don't get anywhere close to digital clipping, which sounds really, really bad. And two, maybe more importantly, is that how loud things are in our mix and how we pan them affect how we hear them, how we perceive them. So this is going to affect how we do the later stages in the mixing process. So for example, a louder source, we perceive more low end and more high end. A quieter source, we perceive less low end and less high end, and it sounds further away. A louder source sounds closer to us, more present. If we pan something off to the left and have a bunch of stuff up the middle and just one or two things off in the left and one or two things off in the right ear, we're going to hear those things in the left and the right ear a little bit clearer than what we're hearing in the middle. So that's going to affect how we're going to EQ and process them and how loud they're going to be in our mix. So we have to be thinking about all these things before we go further into the mixing process, because it's going to affect how we set those different components. Our EQ, our compression, our reverb, all of those things are going to be impacted by the volume and panning positions that we set. So it is crucial that you don't miss this step. Now, in order to make sure that we're not approaching that digital clipping in our mix that I mentioned earlier, we need to use a meter on our master track. So if you hit B on any track and click over to master, that's going to bring up our effects on our master track. And here we can put on a specific meter that allows us to look at the exact volume going on our master track. This is really, really helpful to know exactly what's going on, exactly how loud we are. It's a free plugin from TB Pro Audio, so you can download this for free from them, and it's really going to help you out. And if you've been following me for a while, at the end of this, I'll show you a tip that can help you avoid, if your static mix starts to get too loud really late in the process, getting beyond a level that's safe. So we're going to start by going faders down. This is a really scary moment if you've been working on this song for a while and you already think it's sounding all right, and so you'd rather just tweak the volumes and pans. But I promise you that going faders down is going to be a crucial part in really making sure that you're setting your levels at exactly where they should be. It increases our intentionality, it increases just how we're perceiving everything. So it's a scary moment, but we're going to do it together. I'm just going to bring all the faders down here and set all my pan positions. If you hold Option on the keyboard and click, it will set your pan position back just to center. So a quick little tip there for you. I don't know of any way to set our faders all the way down to 0 at the same time, so we just got to do that one by one. And as we're doing this, we're setting ourselves up, because once we start the mix, we're starting from 0. We're starting to really hear things relative to each other. We can focus on each individual part, make sure it's doing exactly what we want it to be doing. And it's just going to help us have more clarity around our mixing decisions. So it's a scary moment. I hate to do it, but we did it together. And now we're going to start actually setting our static mix. Now, as I mentioned, we want to be checking on our master fader, keeping an eye on this MV Meter 2 plugin. We want to set it to peak standard under the factory preset. You can also set the preset here, factory peak standard. And it will open up really big, but you can make it smaller, which I like to do since I'm just looking at the total output volume. We're going to close that, and then we're just going to go through and we're going to start setting our volumes. And I'm going to talk through a few things that you can be thinking about as you're setting your volumes and panning positions that can be really helpful. There's no right or wrong way with this. You really got to trust your ears and listen to some reference tracks, listen to some other music that you like, and make sure that the relative balance feels similar. But otherwise, you want to trust your ears and follow some of these guidelines. So first, we're just going to start looping the loudest section of our song, and we're going to keep an eye on this, and we're looking for it to stay below -3 at the absolute max, but I usually aim for below -6 if possible. And that's just on this little indicator over here. So when I start playing now, we're not going to hear anything. And we're just going to start bringing things in kind of in order of importance, things that are consistent throughout the entire mix. So this acoustic guitar is throughout the whole song. And it's really prominent. We only have one, so we're going to pan it up the center. And in this recording, we actually have two components to it. We have a DI and then a ribbon microphone, which is really dark. And blending them together gets a cool balanced sound on the acoustic. I think I like to favor the ribbon a little bit. So we're still safe over here for looking at that. Let's go and bring in the bass. It's also throughout more or less the entire song. Now you want bass sources to be panned up the middle, especially ones that are throughout the majority of the mix, because that keeps it balanced and natural feeling. So pan up the middle with our bass. We want to make sure we're getting enough bass for us to really feel it. It's starting to work for me. Let's bring in this piano. So we're still safe over here, so we're going to keep going. Start bringing in this mandolin. So this mandolin and this violin, we recorded this mandolin with the intention of panning it to one side and the violin to the other. Now, you want to have some things that are far left and far right so that you get a lot of width in your mix, but you want to make sure that those things are balanced in volume. First in how they sound, but then also in how we perceive them. So the mandolin is feeling a little bit louder, and we can see on this meter up here is generally hitting a little bit louder. The top is left, the bottom is right. So let's get those bounds relative to each other. And let's listen in the context of the mix. Still working for me? Okay, let's go ahead and bring in the lead vocals here.
She said, I wish you were here, will be next time.
Now sometimes I start with my lead vocal and build in around that to make sure that the vocal is always loud enough. So we're starting to creep past that -6. Let's keep going for now because we're still in a safe range. So here we have a lead vocal and a harmony. We're going to keep the harmony in the middle as well. A little bit lower than the lead vocal. And then we have a left and right double of that lead vocal line that were intended to be panned far left and right. So just singing the same thing.
I wish you were here and you will be next time.
It's a little hot there. They add a nice width. So again, I'm going far left and right with this. I want to make sure that these sound balanced on solo. And they look balanced. Yeah, they look pretty balanced there. Maybe down just a hair on this one. Okay. It's very easy to accidentally close that meter, but we got to keep it up so we can keep our eye on it. Now we're starting to get a little bit loud here. So we're still below -3, so we're going to keep going because we know that we're still in a safe range right now. We have another harmony here. So in this case, these two harmonies, the mid and the high, we intended to kind of just be tucked right around the lead vocal. Now, you could pan these far left and right. In this case, we want them to kind of be more present like a lead vocal line. So we're going to pan them just a little bit on either side of the lead vocal. You don't always have to go far left and right. It really changes if you go really wide with this one. So we'll go just a little bit off left and right. That's working for me right there. What is this vocal doing? So these are kind of a 3-part harmony. Let's listen to these together.
She said, I wish you were here and you will be
Sounds good to me. So I tend to keep low vocals in the center. Sometimes I pan them out left and right, but for the most part, starting at the center point. All right, let's listen to this one here. So this is just kind of a soft lead vocal and a slightly higher register. Let's go far left and right with these two. I think these are doing the same thing. All right, let's find a place for them. I think a little bit lower on these. Let's see what we got here. Same thing. So we're getting 3 unison that we can pan out how we want. So we have a. So we'll do this one center, these far left and right, and we have another low vocal here. Tuck that a little bit higher. I like the way that supports it. Get meter up. Okay. So still in a safe range, but starting to get close. There's some far vocals here. These are kind of meant to be adding this like kind of chorus effect. So let's do a couple far pan, far left and right. And then a couple vocals kind of in the middle. If you want to create a choir effect, singing in different ways can really help give you that kind of choir effect on your vocal. Okay, let's bring up the meter again. So we'll do 2 far and then 2 kind of nearer, middle pan. Sounds a little bit silly in solo, but together, it's going to give us that choir effect a little bit. So you can see this one's popping up a little bit louder, so we're going to bring this one a little bit down. And then we have some oohs here. Let's listen to these in solo here. So these oohs, I think are in unison. Yeah, so in unison. So we'll do 1 far left, 1 far right, 1 in the middle, and then the volume is very similar. So we're going to have very similar set volumes on these. Let's find their place in the mix though. She said, I wish you were here, we'll be next time. I faced all my fears, and love is all I need. So that's sounding good to me. I wish you were here. So we have a few things panned far left and right that are giving us some nice stereo width. We have a few things that are panned kind of in between so that we're filling out the sonic space and we're getting a little separation between things. And then we've set things so that we have enough bass. You know, if you want a little bit more bass, let's see here. You could potentially bring this up more. I could see a little bit more bass in this, so. Wow, we're hitting right at that, exactly at that -3. So we're right at -3, but let's say as we continue mixing, you're likely going to add in a little bit of volume just naturally as you're compressing and setting EQs and adding in reverb, and then your mix is going to start being too loud. And so if I'm right at -3, I'll usually try to bring the volume down a little bit, but I don't want to go through every one of these faders and bring it down just a little bit. That's really cumbersome. So a quick way around this is to hit B, go to your master output, same place that we had our MV meter 2, and set a gain plugin at the start of the channel. So all we're doing here is you would just have under utility gain plugin, set that at the beginning of this chain. And now that all these relative volumes are set right, we know that the relative volumes are safe as long as our MV meter 2 plugin is definitely below 0, but ideally below -3, -6. Then if we're getting a little bit too loud, if we're starting to creep up at -1 or -2, then we can use this output here to bring this gain down and then get us in a safer range. So typically, you know, if I'm around -3, then I might bring this down 3 decibels, and that's going to give me a safer range on my meter. It's going to get me closer to that -6 so that I know that we're in a safe range, right? That's a helpful way to quickly bring this down, because we want to make sure that we're staying safe, but we don't want to jeopardize that we're setting our levels appropriately across our mix. This is first and foremost. So then if we're going to try to slightly tweak these just to stay below this level, that could start to create some more problems in our mix. So I always start with trying to get it in the safe range if you can, and then if you have a relative balance that you feel really good about, a little bit of gain adjustment at the start of this master meter is totally fine. But you can't skip this step and do this, because if you're going past 0, if you're peaking, then you don't necessarily hear relative volume beyond that. So getting your initial volumes and panning is crucial first, and then you can use that gain plugin if you need to tweak it just a little bit. So after I've set my entire static mix across the loudest part of the song, I'll usually play through the entire song a few times and tweak it just a little bit more. I call it massaging the faders. So I'll just keep tweaking them a little bit, bringing it up a little bit here, a little bit there, seeing where things should really sit. And if you're not sure, just try bringing it up a little bit louder and then tucking it back to where it feels right to you. One thing that I'll stress is that 1 decibel can be a big volume change on some sources. So just bringing up your vocal 1 decibel might be all it needs. So you don't need to be doing a big move to hear your vocal better. Start with 1 decibel, just see if this is enough, just that slight little tweak. And if that gets you closer, then that's all you needed to do. So play around with it, listen through the entire song. I will take anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour on a static mix, because this is the foundation of your mix. You have to get this right. So take all the time you need, and then after this, start moving through the rest of the mixing process. Now, obviously, the static mix is not the entire mixing process. I've referred to it as a first step, and that's because there's 5 other steps that you need to be doing to get the best mix possible. There's 6 components that all professional mixes have, and I've put together a 6-step checklist that just walks through exactly what those 6 steps are and how you can do them inside GarageBand completely free from the link in the description below. So be sure to grab that. It's really going to help you out. Before we go, I want to hear from you. Have you been doing a static mix? Have you been going faders down, pan positions to 0, and starting fresh on your static mix? If not, when are you going to start? Let me know in the comments below. If this video was helpful, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week with another video.
One thing at a time.